The mansion stood silent at the edge of the city, wrapped in glass and cold light. Inside, time had stopped. For 2 years, the daughter of one of the richest men in the country had been slowly fading. No doctor could explain why. Her name was Alina. Once, she had filled every room with laughter. Now, even her breathing sounded like effort. Machines surrounded her bed like quiet witnesses. Her father, Victor Hale, had spent millions searching for answers. Specialists flew in from every corner of the world. Tests were run again and again. Nothing. No diagnosis. No cure. Just a slow decline. The staff whispered when they thought no one was listening. Some said it was a rare illness. Others believed it was something darker. But no one dared to say it out loud. Victor didn't believe in mysteries. He believed in solutions. And yet, for the first time in his life, he had none. That's when the new nanny arrived. Her name was Mara. She wasn't what Victor expected. No polished resume. No long list of wealthy families. Just a quiet woman with steady eyes and an unusual calm. "She won't last a week," one of the nurses muttered. But Mara didn't react. From the moment she stepped into Alina's room, something changed. Not visibly, not immediately, but subtly. She didn't rush to check the machines. She didn't ask dozens of questions. Instead, she stood still, listening, as if the room itself had something to say. Alina lay motionless, her skin pale, her eyes half open. Most people felt uncomfortable looking at her for too long. Mara didn't look away. She pulled a chair closer and sat down. "Hello, Alina," she said softly. No response. But Mara smiled anyway. That night, instead of leaving when her shift ended, Mara stayed. No one told her to. She just did. She sat beside the bed, watching, observing every small detail. The rhythm of the machines, the faint flicker of the lights, the way the curtains moved, even when the windows were closed. Something wasn't right. It wasn't medical. She was sure of that. The next morning, Victor came to check on his daughter. He stopped when he saw Mara still there. "You didn't leave?" he asked. "I wanted to understand her," Mara replied. Victor frowned. "Understand what?" "She's sick." Mara didn't argue, but her eyes said something different. That day, she began doing something no one else had done. She started rearranging the room. Not the equipment, not the medicines, just small things. The position of the chair, the angle of the bed, the placement of the lamp. The nurses were confused. "This won't help," one of them said. Mara simply nodded, but she continued. At night, when the hallway grew quiet, she leaned closer to the floor, listening again. There it was, a faint sound, almost like scratching, so soft it could be mistaken for imagination. Mara didn't ignore it. The next day, she asked the staff a simple question. "When was the last time anything in this room was moved?" They exchanged glances. "Nothing's been touched," one replied. "Not for 2 years." 2 years. Mara looked at the bed. Heavy, elegant, expensive, and untouched. That night, she waited until everyone left. The mansion grew still. Only the ticking of distant clocks echoed through the halls. Mara walked slowly toward the bed. Her steps were careful, measured. She knelt down. For a moment, she hesitated, not out of fear, but certainty, because she already knew whatever was under that bed was not supposed to be there. She reached forward and paused. The scratching sound came again, clearer this time. Mara exhaled slowly. Then, without calling anyone, without making a sound, she lifted the edge of the bed frame just enough to see beneath it, and what she saw made her freeze, not in fear, but in recognition, as if she had been expecting it all along. Behind her, Alina's breathing suddenly changed. For the first time in months, it became deeper, stronger. Mara didn't turn around. Her eyes remained fixed under the bed. "Now I understand," she whispered. And in that moment, everything began to shift. Mara didn't pull back. She stayed there, half beneath the edge of the bed, eyes fixed on the darkness below. At first, it looked like nothing, just shadow, but then it moved, not quickly, not violently, slow, deliberate, as if it knew it was being watched. Mara's breathing remained steady. Most people would have called for help. Most would have stepped away. She didn't. Instead, she leaned closer. There, beneath the bed frame, lay a narrow wooden panel. Old, out of place. The rest of the room was modern, flawless. But this didn't belong. Its surface was scratched, not randomly, repeatedly, from the inside. The faint sound came again. Scrape, pause, scrape. Mara reached out and touched the panel. It was cold, colder than the marble floor beneath her. She pressed gently. It didn't move, locked or sealed. Behind her, Alina let out a soft breath, different from before, less strained. Mara glanced back. The girl's fingers twitched. It was small, almost unnoticeable, but it was real. Mara turned back to the panel. 2 years, she whispered. 2 years of this. The room felt heavier now, like it was holding something in, or keeping something down. The scratching stopped. Suddenly, completely, silence flooded the space. Mara didn't like that. She pressed her ear closer to the panel. Nothing, no sound, no movement. But the silence itself felt wrong, as if something was waiting, watching. Mara stood up slowly. She looked at the bed, at its polished frame, at the way it had been placed perfectly in the center of the room. Too perfectly. Who chose this bed? She asked quietly. No one answered. Of course not. She was alone, but the question stayed in the air. That morning, Mara didn't mention what she saw. Not to the nurses, not to Victor. Instead, she observed, watched how everyone interacted with the room, how no one ever moved the bed, how cleaning staff worked around it, never under it, never disturbing it, as if it had become untouchable. Later that day, Victor returned. His eyes were tired, red from sleepless nights. Any change? He asked. Mara nodded slightly. She moved her fingers. Victor froze. What? It was brief, Mara said, but it happened. Hope flickered across his face. Fragile, dangerous. I want more tests, he said immediately. Call the doctors. No. The words stopped him. Sharp, unexpected. Victor looked at her, confused. No, he repeated. Mara met his gaze. Not yet. Silence stretched between them. You're a nanny, Victor said slowly. Not a doctor. I know, Mara replied calmly. That's why I'm not looking at her like one. Victor's jaw tightened. I've spent 2 years trusting experts. And what have they found? Mara asked gently. He didn't answer, because there was nothing to say. Mara stepped closer to the bed. Something in this room is affecting her, she said. Victor shook his head. That's not possible. Then why hasn't anything changed in 2 years? Mara asked. He hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. Mara continued. I need permission to move the bed. Victor's expression hardened instantly. No. The answer came too fast, too firm. Mara noticed. Why not? It's not necessary, he said. Focus on her care. I am, Mara replied. That's exactly what I'm doing. Victor turned away. I won't have this room turned upside down because of feeling. Mara didn't push further. Not yet, but she had seen something in his reaction. Not just resistance, recognition. That night, Mara waited again. The mansion grew quiet. Lights dimmed. Footsteps faded. She closed the door softly behind her. Alina lay still, but her breathing remained slightly stronger than before. Mara knelt beside the bed once more. She didn't hesitate this time. Her hands slid beneath the frame, finding the edge of the wooden panel. She pressed harder. Nothing. Then she tried something different. Instead of pushing, she pulled. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a faint click, so soft it was almost imagined. The panel shifted, just a little. A thin line of darkness opened. Cold air slipped out, sharper than before. Mara paused, listening, waiting. No scratching, no movement, just that cold breath rising from below. Slowly, she widened the gap. The darkness beneath the bed seemed deeper than it should be. Not just a shadow, a space. Hidden, forgotten. Mara reached inside. Her fingers brushed against something. Fabric. Rough. Old. She pulled it closer. A small bundle emerged from the darkness. Wrapped tightly. Tied with thin cord. Mara placed it on the floor. For a moment, she simply looked at it. Then she untied the cord. The fabric loosened, falling open. Inside, photographs. Dozens of them. All of Alina, but not recent ones. Older, from years ago. Smiling, laughing, alive in a way she hadn't been for a long time. Mara flipped through them slowly, each one more vibrant than the last, until she reached the final photo. Her hand stopped. This one was different. Alina stood in her room, right beside the bed. But something else was in the picture. Something that shouldn't have been there. A shadow beneath the bed, not cast by light, not shaped by anything visible. Just there. Mara's eyes narrowed. Behind her, the machine let out a steady beep. Stronger, more stable. Mara looked back at Alina. Color was returning to her cheeks. Faint, but undeniable. Mara turned back to the open panel. The darkness beneath seemed to pulse, as if reacting, as if aware. Mara exhaled slowly. "This isn't just a room," she whispered. "It's been feeding something." The air grew colder. The lights flickered once, then steadied. Mara gathered the photographs. But she didn't close the panel. Not yet, because now she knew what was under the bed was only part of the story. And whatever had been there for 2 years was not ready to let go. Mara didn't move away from the open space beneath the bed. She stayed there, crouched on the cold floor, the photograph still in her hands. The air had changed. It felt heavier, thicker, as if the room itself was aware that something had been disturbed. Behind her, the steady rhythm of the machine continued, stronger than before, more certain. Mara glanced back at Alina. The girl's chest rose and fell with a steadiness no one had seen in months. A faint color touched her lips. Alive, not fully, but returning. Mara looked down again at the dark opening. The space beneath the bed no longer seemed small. It stretched further than it should. A narrow gap leading into something deeper, something hidden with purpose. She reached forward again, slowly, carefully. Her fingers brushed along the inner edge of the opening. Wood, then metal, cold, smooth, a handle. Mara tightened her grip and pulled. At first, nothing happened. Then, with a low, reluctant sound, something inside shifted. A second panel slid open beneath the first, revealing a deeper compartment. This one was not empty. A box lay inside. Simple, dark, unmarked. Mara lifted it out with both hands. It was heavier than it looked, not because of size, because of what it carried. She placed it on the floor beside her. For a moment, she didn't open it. Instead, she listened. The silence in the room had changed again. No scratching, no movement, just a quiet tension, like a held breath. Mara opened the box. Inside, letters, stacked neatly, tied together with a faded ribbon, and beneath them, a small object wrapped in cloth. Mara picked up the letters first. The paper was aged, edges worn. She untied the ribbon and unfolded the top page. The handwriting was careful, precise, not a child's, an adult's. She began to read. "My dearest Alina, if you are reading this, then something has already begun." Mara paused. Her eyes moved faster now, line after line, each word pulling her deeper. The letters weren't written to explain. They were written to prepare, to warn, but not of illness, of something else, something tied to the room, to the bed, to what lay beneath it. Mara's expression didn't change, but her grip tightened slightly. She turned to the next letter, then the next, each one revealing a little more, a pattern, a history, a truth no one in the mansion had spoken, until she reached the final page. Her eyes stopped, fixed on a single line. "It doesn't take life, it trades for it." Mara lowered the paper slowly. Behind her, Alina let out a deeper breath. Stronger, almost natural. Mara looked at the girl again, then back at the open compartment. "It's not random," she whispered. "It's been choosing." Her gaze shifted toward the door, toward the rest of the mansion, then back to the bed. This was allowed to happen. The realization settled quietly, not shocking, not loud, but undeniable. Mara reached for the cloth-wrapped object inside the box. She unwrapped it carefully, layer by layer, until the final piece fell away, revealing a small, delicate music box. Old, handcrafted, its surface was carved with intricate patterns. Beautiful, but worn with time. Mara turned it over in her hands. There was no key, no visible way to open it. Yet it felt active, as if something inside it was waiting. She placed it gently on the floor. The moment it touched the ground, a faint sound filled the room. Soft, familiar, a melody, barely audible, but clear enough to recognize. A lullaby, simple, gentle, and completely out of place. Mara didn't touch it again. She simply listened. The melody continued, slow, steady, and with each note, Alina's breathing grew stronger. The machines responded, numbers shifting, improving. For the first time in 2 years, her condition was changing, not because of medicine, not because of treatment, because something beneath the bed had been disturbed, and something else had been awakened. Mara looked down at the music box. "This isn't hurting her," she said quietly. "It's been holding her here." The realization was sharp, clear. For 2 years, something had been taken from Alina, but something else had been keeping her from slipping away completely. A balance, a trade, life for life. Mara picked up the final letter again, reading the last lines once more. "They will protect it. They will deny it. But if you ever find it, you must decide." Mara exhaled slowly. "Decide what?" she whispered. As if answering her, the melody stopped. Abruptly, the silence that followed was heavier than before. Mara looked at the music box. It hadn't moved, but the air around it felt different, expectant. Behind her, Alina's fingers moved again, this time more clearly. Her hand shifted slightly on the bed. Mara stood up quickly and stepped closer. "Alina?" For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the girl's eyelids trembled. Just once, but enough. Mara's eyes softened. "You're still here," she said quietly. A faint whisper escaped Alina's lips, too soft to understand, but it was sound, real sound. Mara turned back toward the open compartment. The letters, the hidden space, the music box, all of it pointed to one truth. This had never been just a sickness. It was something built, maintained, protected, and someone in this house knew exactly how it worked. Mara's gaze shifted toward the door again. This time, there was no doubt in her eyes. She wasn't just uncovering a secret. She was stepping into a decision that had been waiting for 2 years. And whatever she chose next would not only change Alina's fate, it would expose the truth the mansion had been holding in silence. Mara didn't close the compartment. She left everything exactly as it was. Open, exposed, waiting. Because now, hiding it again would only delay the truth. And the truth was already moving. Behind her, Alina's breathing had become steady enough to sound natural. Not perfect, but no longer fading. Mara stood beside the bed, watching her, measuring each breath, each small movement. Then she spoke quietly. "Who knew about this, Alina?" The girl didn't answer, but her fingers twitched again, stronger this time, as if trying. Mara turned toward the door. She didn't rush. She didn't panic. She simply walked across the room and opened it. The hallway was dim, silent, but not empty. At the far end stood Victor. He hadn't knocked. He hadn't called out. He was just there, watching. His eyes moved past Mara, into the room, to the open space beneath the bed, to the box, to the music box resting on the floor. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Victor exhaled slowly. "You opened it." Not a question, a statement. Mara stepped aside slightly. "Yes." Victor walked in, each step measured, heavy, as if he had taken this path before, but never this far. His gaze lingered on the photographs first, then the letters, then finally, the music box. His expression shifted. Not shock, Not confusion. Recognition. And something else. Regret. You knew, Mara said. Victor didn't deny it. He stood there, silent for a long moment. Then he nodded. I didn't understand all of it, he said quietly. But I knew enough. Mara's voice remained calm. Enough to leave it there for 2 years? Victor's jaw tightened. You think I wanted this? He asked. I think you allowed it, Mara replied. The words landed heavily. But Victor didn't argue. Because they were true. He walked closer to the bed, looked at his daughter, really looked, not as a patient, not as a problem to solve, but as his child. Her fingers moved again. His breath caught. She hasn't done that in... He stopped. He couldn't finish the sentence. Mara stepped beside him. The moment I opened the compartment, everything changed. Victor nodded slowly. I know. Mara turned to him. Then explain it. He hesitated. Not because he didn't want to speak, but because saying it out loud would make it real. Finally, he did. Before this house was rebuilt, there was an older structure here, Victor began. Smaller, older. And that room, he glanced around. It existed then, too. Mara listened without interrupting. Victor continued. When Alina first got sick, nothing made sense. No diagnosis. No cause. Just decline. His voice grew quieter. I was desperate. Mara didn't look away. So I searched beyond medicine. There it was, the turning point. Victor looked at the music box. I was told there was something tied to this place. Something that could sustain life. Sustain? Mara repeated. Victor nodded. But not freely. Mara's eyes sharpened. A trade, she said. Victor met her gaze. Yes. Silence filled the room again. But this time it wasn't empty. It was full of understanding. You activated it, Mara said. Victor closed his eyes briefly. I didn't know what it would cost. That's not true, Mara replied quietly. You knew it would cost something. He didn't argue, because she was right. I thought I could control it, he said. Limit it. Keep her alive long enough to find a real cure. Mara glanced at Alina. Instead, you kept her between 2 states. Victor's voice broke slightly. I kept her here. Not alive. Not gone. Just here. Mara walked to the music box. She didn't touch it, but she stood close enough to feel its presence. It's still working, she said. Victor nodded. It won't stop on its own. Mara looked back at him. Then it needs to be stopped. Victor's face tightened instantly. No. The answer was immediate. Sharp. Mara didn't raise her voice. If it continues, it will keep taking. Victor stepped forward. And if it stops? His eyes locked onto hers. What happens to her then? The question hung between them. Heavy. Unavoidable. Mara didn't answer right away. Because there was no easy answer. She looked at Alina again. At the faint life returning to her. At the fragile progress. Then back at the hidden space beneath the bed. This wasn't meant to heal her, Mara said slowly. It was meant to hold her. Victor's silence confirmed it. Mara continued. And the longer it holds her, the more it takes from somewhere else. Victor looked away. Because he already knew that part. He had always known. He just never said it. Mara's voice softened slightly. You didn't save her, she said. You paused her. The truth landed harder than anything before. Victor's shoulders dropped. Just a little, as if the weight he had been carrying finally shifted. What would you do? He asked quietly. It wasn't a challenge. It was a plea. Mara looked at the music box again, then at the open letters, then at Alina. Her answer came without hesitation. I would finish what was started. Victor frowned. What does that mean? Mara stepped closer to the bed. She reached down and gently placed her hand over Alina's. Warm, alive. Whatever this is, she said. It created a balance. Victor listened carefully. Mara continued. If we break it suddenly, the balance breaks with it. He nodded slowly, understanding. And if we don't, he asked. It keeps feeding, Mara replied. Silence again. Then Victor spoke. There's something else. Mara looked at him. What? He hesitated, then said it. The last letter. There was a part one didn't understand. Mara picked it up immediately. Which part? Victor pointed to a line near the bottom. Mara read it again. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Then she understood. Not fully, but enough. This isn't just about stopping it, she said. Victor leaned closer. Then what? Mara looked at the music box. Her voice dropped to a whisper. It needs to be completed. The air in the room shifted again. Subtle, but real, as if something had been waiting to hear those exact words. Behind them, Alina took a deeper breath than ever before, and for the first time, her eyes opened, just a fraction, but enough to see, enough to know, something had changed. Mara didn't turn immediately. She kept her gaze on the music box, because she knew the next step wouldn't just end this. It would reveal why it had begun, and once that truth surfaced, nothing in the mansion would remain the same. Alina's eyes didn't open fully, but they were no longer still. A faint awareness flickered within them. Not confusion, not fear, recognition. Mara turned slowly toward the bed. She didn't rush, because whatever was happening needed calm, not panic. Alina, she said softly. The girl's lips parted slightly. A breath, then another. Her fingers tightened weakly around Mara's hand. Victor stepped closer, afraid to speak, afraid to break the moment. For 2 years, he had waited for this. And now that it was here, it felt fragile, uncertain. Mara glanced at him briefly, then back at Alina. It's time, she whispered. The words weren't for Victor. They weren't even for herself. They were for the room, for the thing that had been holding everything in place. Mara released Alina's hand gently and walked back to the music box. The air around it felt different now, warmer, less heavy, as if it, too, was changing. Victor's voice came low. What are you going to do? Mara didn't look at him. I'm not stopping it, she said. His expression shifted. Then what? I'm finishing it. Silence followed. But this time, it wasn't filled with tension. It was filled with inevitability. Mara picked up the music box. For the first time, it didn't feel resistant. It felt ready. She turned it over in her hands, studying the carvings again. This time, she noticed something new, a seam. So fine it had been invisible before. Now it stood out clearly. Mara pressed along the edge. There was a soft click. The lid opened. Inside, not gears, not springs, but a small, circular mirror. Dark at first. Then slowly, it reflected light, but not from the room, from somewhere deeper. Mara held it steady. The reflection shifted, not showing her face, not showing the ceiling. It showed Alina, but not as she was now. Healthy, standing, smiling, alive. Victor stepped closer. He saw it too. His breath caught. What is that? He whispered. Mara didn't answer immediately, because she understood now. The letters hadn't been instructions to destroy anything. They were instructions to complete a cycle, to return what was held, she said quietly. Victor frowned. I don't. It didn't steal her life, Mara explained. It preserved it here. She tilted the mirror slightly. The image of healthy Alina shimmered, but it needed something in exchange to keep it anchored. Victor's face paled. And if we finish it? Mara looked at him. Then the exchange ends. He understood instantly. And the cost? Mara didn't soften it. There's always one. Victor looked at his daughter, at her weak, fragile form on the bed, then back at the reflection, the version of her he had been trying to save for 2 years. His voice dropped. Tell me what to do. Mara nodded once. She stepped closer to the bed again, holding the open music box carefully. Alina, she said gently. The girl's eyes shifted toward her, slow, but intentional. You need to come back, Mara whispered. A faint tear formed at the corner of Alina's eye. Her lips moved. No sound, but meaning. Mara placed a music box near her chest, close enough for her to see the mirror. Look, Mara said. Alina's gaze fixed on it, on the reflection, on herself. Whole, complete. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the air in the room changed. A soft vibration, almost like a distant echo. The mirror's surface rippled. Light flickered across it, and the reflection began to move. not like an image, like a presence. Victor stepped back instinctively, but Mara stayed still. "Don't pull away," she said calmly. Alina's fingers tightened again. Stronger now. The machines responded. Steady, rising. The reflection in the mirror grew brighter, until it no longer looked like a reflection at all. It looked real, closer, reaching. Mara's voice remained steady. "This is where it ends." The room filled with a low hum, not loud, but deep, resonating through everything. The open space beneath the bed darkened, then slowly began to fade, as if it was losing its hold. The cold air vanished, replaced by something warmer, lighter. Alina's breathing deepened, her chest rising fully now. Naturally, the reflection surged, and in a single silent moment, it was gone. The mirror cleared, now reflecting only the room, only reality. Mara closed the music box gently. The sound in the room stopped. Completely. No hum, no tension, just silence, real silence. Behind her, Alina inhaled sharply, a full breath, strong, alive, her eyes open fully, clear, focused, present. Victor rushed forward. Alina, her gaze met his, and for the first time in 2 years, she smiled, not weakly, not faintly, but truly. "I'm here," she whispered. Victor dropped to his knees beside the bed, overwhelmed, speechless. Mara stepped back quietly, watching, not interrupting, because this moment didn't belong to her. It belonged to them. After a few seconds, Victor looked up. His eyes found Mara, filled with something deeper than gratitude, understanding. "What did it take?" he asked quietly. Mara glanced at the music box in her hands, then back at him. "Nothing more than what was already given," she said. Victor frowned slightly, but didn't press, because some answers didn't need to be explained. They needed to be accepted. Mara walked to the bed one last time. She placed the music box gently on the table beside it. No longer active, no longer needed. "The balance is gone," she said. "It won't take anything anymore." Victor nodded slowly, relief settling in. For the first time in 2 years, the house felt different. Not heavy, not watchful, just a house. Mara turned toward the door. "You're leaving?" Victor asked. She paused, then nodded. "My work here is done." He stood up. "You knew what this was from the beginning." Mara looked at him. "Not everything," she said. "Just enough." "And now?" A faint, calm expression crossed her face. "Now it's over." She opened the door. The hallway looked brighter than before. Or maybe it had always been. She stepped out without looking back. Inside the room, life continued. Not paused, not borrowed. Real. And under the bed, there was nothing left, just empty space. As if whatever had lived there had finally let go.